Hello, Podnutzians. Welcome to the Mini PC Show number 67. My name is Door to Door Geek. This week, I am being joined by Flying Rich from Flying Southern Hughes Command.
Hughes Compound Southern Command.
I wasn't supposed to be in the military for a reason. We're also joined by Brian. Hey, man.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
I'll say this. I'm doing okay. It's been, I think, more than 2 weeks since we've gotten together to do a show. I want to say it's closer to 3 weeks. So first question is, how the hell are you guys doing?
I'm good. I got a metric butt-ton load of links and stuff I want to talk about, and it's probably enough for 2 shows.
Wow.
But I do have a prediction that involves me, Door, and Brian that's going to occur in 2018. So when you're ready for the 2018 predictions.
Okay, well, first I'll ask the listeners hypothetically, and I'll ask you guys. Do you remember the predictions we did from 2016 about 2017? Because I don't either. I kind of skimmed through. I think it was show 37 and 38 to see what the predictions were, and I didn't find them. So that I'm going to say our predictions must have been 100% spot on.
I think it was.
Nobody called us out on it. That's kind of like speeding when nobody's around, right?
Sure, I guess. I mean, Brian made the call that there would be ARM-based laptops by the end of the year.
I do remember that.
Rich said how IoT would be much more corporate and industrial, and they would have their highest sales from big manufacturers. And we have, Amazon, Google, even I think Microsoft technically has a piece of hardware you can buy to do the home assistant stuff. So you were right about that. And I said a bunch of males would get charged with sexual harassment. So I think we all won.
Wow. Boy, Tor, that was way out there. And I'm surprised you came up with that.
Well, it's fluency in not speech, but time vision, I guess, that kind of thing.
Being prescient.
Sure. Yeah.
Hey, I just want to make mention that I did follow Matt Lauer's advice, and I got myself a little rate button underneath my my desk here. So, and it's built with a Raspberry Pi. So if you guys want the instructions.
I got one of those, but the opposite way. It's so I can lock my door and keep my family out when I'm podcasting.
Jeez. Yeah, that'll work real good.
Very. Yeah, I mean, in the last couple weeks, I haven't had honestly a lot of time. We just went through Thanksgiving here, and just a plethora of family stuff going on, doctor's appointments, school appointments, blah blah blah. But I do have a second Raspberry Pi here that I do intend on doing another installation of a networking share service on it. Right now, I have one running OwnCloud. I want to install NextCloud on a second one and then try to migrate everything over. Just haven't had the time to sit down and try that. It's not looking good for trying to find instructions for Bananian on how to do it, which is the current operating system running on the current rig. So I might actually attempt a Diet Pi install and see how much work it is. I will say, in my experience, the only shortcoming to Diet Pi, it's like going to a ice cream store that advertises they have 50 flavors, and then when you walk in, every flavor is vanilla, but they spell it differently. You know what I mean? Kind of thing.
So here is what I would do. All right, because I did do this. I did do an OwnCloud to NextCloud migration, and the early instructions on that were to just change the directory name from OwnCloud after you put the NextCloud. And oh boy, see, I did do it. It's something like that. What I would do is mirror. All right, first off, back up your banana Pi. Is that running on an SD card or is it an eMMC?
The Banana Pi Pro only has SD card.
SD card. And honest, it's been. I don't touch my Banana Pro
because it works.
Because it works. Might not be the best at anything, but it works.
Well, I can tell you I can do that. It ain't going to work.
What, backing up the SD card?
No, trying to just copy over one thing because multiple things have to happen. The system drive mapping has to go
Right.
to the external drive.
Mhm.
The HTTPS cert has to be created. The
Mhm.
default has to be set for it to only run on HTTPS.
Mhm.
The port has to be identified. Um, you have to identify in a config file what its base address is.
Mhm.
Just like right now, my base address is a noip.org address, and by
Mhm.
default, it's going to be 192.168. One dot dot dot. So those are at least 3 of the changes I have to make above and beyond the simple part of just migrating the data and permissions over.
Okay. Since you're talking about all of that stuff, I think I might just go a little dangerous. Make a backup of the micro SD card, swap them out, use the backup, and do the own cloud to Nextcloud migration on the backed up card.
Well, I have to first see if I could even get Nextcloud then installed on this version of Bananian.
Yeah, it's just a directory. I forget, is it Python that it runs in? So you're just copying the code over. And oh my gosh, there's definitely a way to migrate. And I did it.
I'm not going to say there isn't. I'll just say it's like explaining how to change brakes to somebody who hasn't been able to see any day previous in their life. I'm not going to say it's complicated. I'm just going to say it's completely new to me. I'm not a web server guy. So, if it's just doing a download, expanding, moving a folder, like the one folder, I think that would get me 80% of the way there.
There is a Nextcloud migration tool.
But then it would just be a question of what version of OwnCloud am I running on this, and is it compatible with that? And then what version of Nextcloud can I get? And is
Scratch
it
that.
compatible with that?
Sorry. This tool supports OwnCloud 8.2 to OwnCloud 10.0. It's like, yeah, no, that's not it. All right,
Yeah.
here's the article. It's migrating from OwnCloud to Nextcloud. They're talking about, what version of OwnCloud are you?
Old.
Like older
What
than
year is
8.2?
that from? I can tell you as soon as I log in here.
I probably could tell you too.
I know.
Where's my OwnCloud?
Once you log in,
I'm logged in.
and then you go to, I believe, settings. Nope.
Personal help, files gallery.
I was throwing on a dummy machine and trial it that way before we actually do a live version.
I have 8 point. No, it says 8.2.
Okay, so this doc, I'll send you the doc. It says OwnCloud 8.2 and 9.0 to Nextcloud 8. I'm sorry, Nextcloud 9. So you need a copy of Nextcloud 9 and you can migrate
Let me see this.
from 8.2 or 9.0 to Nextcloud 9. And then I guess you could migrate up to, I don't know if Nextcloud 12.01 or 12.0.1 to be fully accurate.
And saying this might cause administrators listening to go into seizures, but a lot of my friends tell me that I should be running CentOS and Red Hat based systems because of this statement I'm going to say, which is I hate installing updates religiously. I hate them. I do not trust them. So I always wait at least weeks before doing version updates on anything, just to ensure
Stability. Yeah.
stability. So I have no problem with leaving my Nextcloud at a version for an extended period of time. And I'm looking here. I don't see in the initial Diet Pie documentation what version of Nextcloud I would be getting.
Oh, what port is Nextcloud on?
On my internal network 443.
Yeah.
Because by default it runs on 80, and I want you know, it's that their secure connection.
Because I'm just checking. What I had Nextcloud running? No, maybe I don't. I did. I may have turned it off.
Looking for the change log, at least. I don't believe I see. Oh, Nextcloud updated to latest version 12.0. So right now, if I go git .py install Nextcloud, I'm going to get 12.0.
All right. So if you clone your micro SD card, throw the clone in, it says delete everything from the OwnCloud folder except the config, except data and config. Download the appropriate Nextcloud, and there's a nextcloud.com/install, so you can pick the proper release. Put the files in the folder where OwnCloud files were before. Trigger the update via the OCC or via web. And
I would say that's the kind of upgrade that scares the crap out of me. That's like Drupal, which I'll say this: Drupal is by far the most powerful content management system I ever used, and the best content management system I ever used, except for upgrades. It was insanity. I'll say, at least on nextcloud.com/changelog, I can manually download Nextcloud 12, 11, 10, or 9. It clearly tells me I can do that. So that right there is a huge plus.
Mhm.
I can pick what version I go to. Yeah, my logic is what I'll do is I'll take the SD card out. I'll just make a image of it. I'll DD it on a box and just make an image of it so I can play around with it. But I'll say this in actuality, I'd like to leave the one that's up and running for as long as possible, and just use a secondary Banana Pi to test this on and get it up and running.
So, well, the only problem is the mapping of your drive and the data.
Oh, well, that's not difficult because I literally remember that. That was nothing more than a symlink.
Well, I'm saying if you let's just say you clone the SD card and drop it in the Banana Pi Pro 2.0,
Right.
and then you do the upgrade, you're not going to have the connection to the drive, the external drive.
Well, yeah, for two reasons. The external drive either will not exist or it will come under a different name, so the mapping won't take. So that in that case, I just go into the FS tab, tweak it. The only thing I remember being an issue was setting the correct permissions was a hassle for me because it was what the server was running as.
Oh yeah.
And that was the only, I would say, trick. And now here's what I'll say to that. In Linux and Unix and all the Unix-based systems, in Windows, permissions are actually checked and granted based upon GUIDs or SIDs, not usernames, not email addresses, not none of that stuff. When you log into a domain as Door Geek, what happens is Door Geek gets looked up and it returns your unique GUID or SID identification number. Then everywhere you access on that network, it uses that as your ID. On Linux, it's your I'm trying to remember the actual name of it. It's basically your account number, which I believe starts at 1000 on most systems. So if I have it, if I make sure that user account number is the same on both systems, there shouldn't be an issue. Regardless of the name can be whatever to the permissions as long as their numbers end up being the same thing. Yeah, and to be honest, I don't mind even buying a second drive because right now you've seen drive prices, Rich, a lot. I don't mind buying a new drive and connecting that one. And basically, when it comes time, not even disconnecting the drive and copying it over, just doing a rsync and just pushing all the data over.
How big of a drive do you have on that?
Oh, it's teeny. It's 240 gig.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, I did that primarily because it's directly connected to the Banana Pi Pro, no external power. I wanted to get as little power as possible just in case getting a larger drive would demand more power and maybe make it more unstable.
Dude, spend the $39 at Costco and get a 256 gig SD thumb drive.
Well, in the Banana Pi, the only USB is USB 2.0.
Yeah, it's still gonna work.
I know, technically it will. I know. Yeah. And then I'll say if I want to, technically I could just hook up the o-droid XU4 with USB 3.0.
Ding, ding, ding.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. But I want to try the Banana Pi Pro just because the damn thing's been so stable.
Oh yeah, yeah, that definitely. The o-droid XU4, I fall asleep to watching videos, and I'll, sometimes I'm watching them on Plex, and sometimes it says, there, I forget what the message is, but basically, it craps the bed frequently.
Right. Is it
Something.
wireless?
Yeah, on Wi-Fi, and it's something to do. Actually, let me just check if my server is running.
So is your o-droid the streamer or the receiver?
The streamer.
Gotcha.
Jet streamer. Nobody got it.
Nope.
Dude,
Right with that.
you didn't get that one? The Jetsons.
Oh, I was going to say,
Okay.
I can't tell if I'm too old or not old enough. But I knew it was one of them.
Come on, eep, op, orc,
Dude, it's been too long.
I was like 3 years old, maybe.
Right, you old enough to drink?
I am old enough to drink, yes.
Oh my gosh. All right, so what are we doing? What are we talking about here?
Well, I mean, I'll just say this. Have you guys had any other mini computing adventures or desires pop up
Oh,
here?
dude, my life has changed in mini computing.
Okay.
I don't even know why you ask. Why
Okay,
would
well,
you even bother to
Well,
ask?
mine changed too. My glorious,
No.
ever-loving, faithful, heavily abused upboard went kapooey.
Is it?
Ooh.
It's not the EMMC. The upboard's dead.
It has to be the MMC is what I'm going to say. It has to
okay.
be. It randomly will not boot clean.
Mhm.
When it does boot clean and I am able to access their BIOS,
Mhm.
half the time it says there's no drives connected. Even if I have a USB thumb drive connected, there's no drives connected. Half the time it says there's a USB thumb drive connected, and maybe 1 out of 10 times it says there's an eMMC connected,
Mhm.
but I can't boot to it.
And
And when I do get the thumb drive to boot, I can't write to it to try to flash a new OS to it.
do you have the let's see, the eMMC to SD card adapter to flash the EMC outside of the board?
I didn't even know the eMMC could come off this board. I thought it was soldered on.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Wait a second. Where's mine?
Mississippi?
Am I just thinking o-droid?
o-droid snaps on.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking o-droid.
Hold it up. Do you have it?
Yeah. Well,
there it is.
so there's a hunk of aluminum on the bottom there.
Yeah, and the top,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
which kind of makes it difficult to even get to if you can. But I know looking up underneath, I don't see anything that I could perceive as an eMMC that could.
Nothing socketed.
Yeah.
So what the heck?
I guess I just overused it, overabused it. I don't know.
No, it's got to work.
Oh, okay. My will isn't strong enough. I don't know what to say.
I don't think it's a matter of pure will.
I'm not sure what kind of warranty they have on these things, or
Well, technically, I'm going to say probably a year. And if I count correctly, literally like a year and 2 months, 3 months, maybe. That's how long. I'll say this. I still think if it was my money being spent, this was still a good investment. A, to see what's capable, to see what's possible, to see what you can do. Uh, B, prove that what can be done. Because to be honest, this is what anybody would equate to a full desktop computer from 4 years ago, 5 years
Yep.
ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it ran absolutely fine. Better than fine for the most part. The only thing it was short on was RAM, and they fixed that in the upboard too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep it here as a monument to remind me of what faithful mini computers do. And it gave all it got. I didn't have to take it out back and like old Yeller and do anything to it.
Where's the death trumpet when you need it?
Yeah. So,
Taps.
what kind of stuff did you guys have in the last couple weeks?
So, Brian, do you got something? Because I'm going to talk for a long time.
Get ready.
Get ready.
I just actually pasted the link into the chat window. I was looking at a tester from Exfo, a company called Exfo. They do a lot of OTDRs, optical domain time reflectometer meters and so forth, and they have this little handheld tester where you could connect a switch or a router, and you can do a speed test, and you can have this thing report to your handheld device like a phone or a tablet or so forth. And it allows you to do a speed test and gives you all these pretty graphs and so forth. And I think it goes up to a max, a gig for the interface. It's got a SFP interface for optical, and it's got a electrical interface for Cat5 or Cat6. But I'm looking at the price for this device.
Yes.
And it's like $1,000.
I was going to say, how many are you buying?
Well, you really only need one. But I'm like, you know what? This is like...
You do have friends, you know.
I know.
Well, I'll say this, all good testers are at minimum $400-$500.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't shock me this is a 1,000. There's a friend of the show, Marvin B, who frequently touts his Fluke, and I think the last time I looked it up, it was like $1,000.
Yep. I was just going to say Fluke.
Yeah, no, I agree. I wouldn't expect anything different, but I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, you know, there's not much to it other than the software behind it. There's not much to this thing. So I'm like,
I see where you're going.
Yeah, you see, I'm like, well, how can I replicate this and still, you know, not do as good or better, but how can I achieve similar results?
Oh, okay.
You know? And I'm looking around, and we had discussed the Tinkerboard from ASUS a while back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, you know, it is what it is. The Tinkerboard is what it is. I mean, it's not going to, you know, kill the Raspberry Pi by any means, but given the specs that it had, it kind of filled the need, because you had the size formatter, you know, the size of the device kind of fit really neat in the footprint of a Raspberry Pi. So I can buy a Raspberry Pi shell for it, cover, and I would still get that gig interface that I needed, as well as the processor was a little bit faster than the Raspberry Pi. But I'm kind of looking at the ASUS Tinkerboard to fill the need to replicate this device here, and maybe perhaps get a what do you call it? A converter that converts optical light to electrical signal.
Yeah.
So I can, you know, slot SFPs if I need to, and utilize a I know I got to think about this. I think the Tinkerboard does have a USB 3 interface on it, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll look it up.
I just had it up here. I was trying to find it in our notes earlier, and I could have sworn we talked about it, but I couldn't locate it on our notes.
We did talk about it. USB 2.0 is the only USB connectors.
Okay, so that would be the hang up there. So that would not work using the light converter. But still, you still get the gig interface for speeds higher than 100 meg.
On what device?
On the Tinkerboard, the Asus Tinkerboard.
Oh, Tinkerboard. Okay, yeah. All right. Yeah. I'll tell you why I asked, because Dor just dropped the link for NetPi, but that was a Raspberry Pi, and you have 100 meg. You don't have gig.
Right.
Yeah, there are several gig devices out there, and I guess Tinkerboard is probably the cheaper of the gig devices out there, or more cost effective.
I'll say this: if I got to think this out, because you're literally like slamming me in the side of the head with this one, Brian. That this is really interesting, really good, and I can see being really demanding. If you can actually make one, so I'm gonna guess you really do need pretty fast I/O on the board, because the test is a demanding test. So USB 3 is what you would need.
Yeah.
When it comes to USB 3, the only hang up is you're going to lose the micro USB power connector, and you're going to have to go to a barrel connector, because that's just what the standard says it is. And you have things then like the o-droid XU4. There's at least a couple other ones that aren't crazy expensive. So really price is going to be fine. The real, I think, blocker on this is going to be, is there a operating system that contains a majority of the type of tools you need? Because I mean, just to do a trace route, just to do a ping, just to do a simple speed test, or like on the Flukes, you also get stuff like identify every DNS server on the network, report that. You know what I mean? How many hops does it take to get between this, and how many mail servers are on the network? I mean, all these kinds of things that can analyze, which to me is almost more like penetration testing type reporting.
No, I'm looking for something way more simpler than that. This is basically put in your website you want to use for testing, and hit the button and hit go, and then report back what those speeds were. You name it, whatever website that you use for testing, you put it in there. And like I said, have it report back to a spreadsheet using maybe if this then that, and giving you results that way.
Right. So my only question, would fiber to Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet, be an option, or in your experience, is it really fiber to USB 3 probably the best?
I'd have to trial it. I'd have to see what it looks like. I mean, I've seen these converters being used quite a bit in data centers. Given the pinch where, hey, the customer wants to get copper handoff. No, excuse me, a fiber handoff. All they have is copper. Though the data center will just throw in a converter and off you go. Not the best way to do it, but if you need to do it in a pinch, it's going to work. So these devices are out there. I'd like to see how it would perform in a 3.0 port, a USB 3.0 port. I mean, it should be able to handle it, but
are you talking 10 gig on 3.0?
No, it's I think 3.0. What is that?
Well, the fiber is capable of 10 gig.
Oh yeah, it's capable of 10 gig, but this is going to be no more than 1 gig. Yeah, testing no more than a 1 gig link. So
yeah, you should be fine on 3.0 then.
Yeah. But I can easily make this device way more cost effective than $900.
Yeah, that just seems to be super high premium. And if I got a 3D printer working, I could print you a case for it.
That'd be sweet. That'd be really sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I keep the only thing I keep thinking is this can't be rocket science. This
No.
there's just the one piece, which is a very light way of saying it. This magical black box that takes fiber, and the real question is: this a like on televisions when you go from the old style RGB cables to DVI or HDMI? There's an actual analog to digital conversion. Is there, I'm going to guess, going from fiber to either USB or Ethernet would again be a type of actual conversion?
Well, fiber's digital, Ethernet's digital, the hardware on a Tinkerboard's digital. You're
Right.
not going A to D anywhere.
Right.
Okay, well then I don't think it should be. I'll say this because I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't think it should be crazy connection, crazy expensive then.
Yep. Yeah, even if it would, there was some fancy DSP in there, digital signal processing chips.
Right.
It shouldn't be that high. I think this is like in the fluke realm of pricing, and they just figure they can make a lot of money at it.
Right.
Well,
Like I said, the software for this device it's beautiful. It's very unique. It's very well polished. Spits out reports. Makes it very simple. So I can understand the price tag.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to have a super low production run, and they're trying to get back their investment money on the product.
Right.
yeah, and they're paying also what you're paying for. I'll say in my experience with those kind of companies, you're paying for the support, you're paying for the warranty, you're paying
Mhm.
for everything else that comes with it besides just the device.
Right.
Interesting, Brian. And here's the thing. I mean, I'm in a data center where we have plenty of fiber running through it. I know nothing about fiber. I just know, hey, network's faster this week. Yeah, we went to fiber. Oh, good, good. And that's about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
just
very interesting.
you can't make your own fiber cables. You can't make your own Cat 5.
No, you can. They make little kits where you can make little fiber jumpers.
Oh
It's
yeah?
actually, yeah, it's pretty straight. It's actually pretty cool, and it's pretty straightforward. But it's a mechanical connection. It's not a fusion. I'm sure they have little fusion splices too, but they're very expensive. The mechanical ones are just as good.
Hmm.
Depending what your needs are. There's caveats to using a mechanical connection versus a fusion splice.
See, fiber's 10 gig. Cat 5 maxes out at a gig. You can bond them. You can have, two 1 gig Cat 5 ports bonded together to get 2 gig throughput. You could do the same thing with the fiber. So
Yeah.
you can have a 20 gig, throughput if you bond to fiber
Mhm.
together.
Yeah, once I discovered fiber, I really don't like making Cat 5 connections anymore.
It's so funny. Who was I talking to? And he told me about the like 4 meg USB thumb drive that he bought for like $100, something like that back in the day.
Whoa.
They're all of this stuff. So yeah, it's like I don't want to go near 100 megabit or gigabit Ethernet anymore. Forget that stuff. Hold on, where's the hand sanitizer? I touched 100 gigabit Ethernet.
Very cool. So, Rich, do you want to go into your stuff?
Epic rant of stuff. And the teaser is I'm going to save my 2018 prediction that has to do with me, Dor, and Brian till after the rant. Or when Dor says I can do it, which will be after the rant.
You're a grown man whenever you want.
Okay. So I've talked about this stuff before on the show, and I've gotten into a little deeper dive on stuff. So home automation assistant, right? You remember that, right, guys?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. So here's just a little bit of the logic behind it and why. There's a couple of products out there. I hate to say I'm not remembering them. I've tried them out, but Home Automation Assistant is the one I've been playing with, and I'm not going to say it's better than whatever the other ones are. But so the cool thing is, with a Pi device and the software, you can do stuff, and it will. If I recall correctly, it will directly connect to Philips Hue. So you don't have to get the Philips Hue hub. It will directly connect to IKEA's, bulbs, and you don't need the IKEA hub. So there's a number of things like that are pretty cool. And so the issue, what's nice about having a third party or major player agnostic product out there is you're not in the Alexa realm, you're not in the Google realm, you're not in the Philips Hue realm, you're not in the early product I bought was the TCP connected bulbs, which basically is bankrupt and they're only good as LED bulbs now. And in fact, I think they neutered the controller device. So the controller device doesn't seem to work at all anymore.
Wow.
Originally you had like IFT connectivity. All right, so here's what I got going on. I did get a Google Home Mini, which I'm super liking, and the bird is probably the biggest beneficiary of the Google Home Mini because we'll say, I'm not going to say the wake word, play soft classical music. And I used to play talk radio for him, but he seems to enjoy or is more peaceful when I play soft classical music. It's orchestra type music, which is really good. The other big win on the Google Home Mini is I didn't realize maybe you could do it without it, but having a shared shopping list. So if you install the Google Home app on your phone, you have a shopping list, but you can share it among your family and then say, like, it's my list, but my wife and daughter say that the list that I shared with them takes priority. So a couple of cool things about that is you could be in the kitchen throwing out the carton of fill in the blank, whether it's milk or eggs or whatever. As you're throwing it in the garbage, say, add this to the shopping list, add eggs, add milk.
Right.
Or my wife and daughter could be, did I say that wrong again? My wife or daughter could be out somewhere and realize I'm going to go to the supermarket and tell it to add something to the list, and all I got to do is look at my stinking phone and there's a list. So that's real cool. All right, so
well, super quick. The couple extra things you can do is you can literally say, remind me when I'm at Redner's to pick up milk, and then when you walk in the door, your phone will bing and do it. The
that's
other
fantastic. I've done that.
And in the other ecosystem, you can simply just say, buy me a gallon of milk or, a item, and it can go through the Amazon services and be on your step in 2 days.
Right. Which is pretty cool.
Well, that's the only differential in shopping experience I can tell between the Home and the Alexa family of devices. Alexa can actually ship goods. Google can do everything else around it except for the actual ordering process.
Well,
you can order milk.
Why do you say that?
Well, milk is a horrible example.
All right, Google has partnered with Walmart.
Oh.
So who's got the tech? Who's got the fulfillment?
I'll rather use Amazon still than give Walmart. Have you been in Walmart?
Dude, I live in Walmart. I'm a full-blown redneck.
It ain't about redneck. It's about social IQ. And I mean, I'm sure going in there is kind of like being on the Jerry Springer show back in the day. It makes you feel like a genius.
That's what it is. Yeah, I knew it reminded me of something.
I knew a guy on Long Island that was smart, but he wasn't crazy smart, and he moved to Buffalo. And in Buffalo, he was crazy smart.
Well, but then he also had really good chicken wings.
I'd like to express that all views by these two gentlemen are expressed by their personal views only and does not reflect the show by any means whatsoever.
So, a couple of cool things. Google Home does IFT also, and Home Automation Assistant does IFT. So, what I started doing is I have a number. I didn't give them all away. I have a couple of Pi Zeros kicking around.
Hmm.
And I took a Pi Zero that I soldered a 4-port USB hub to. And so then it has network connectivity because it's a Pi Zero, not a Pi Zero W. So I started loading up. Oh, and actually, one better thing. Which link is it? It's link 569. So there is Haspian. So Home Automation Assistant on Raspbian, which is Haspian. And so I had that running on the Pi Zero. And then, let's see, which link is it? I ordered, tell me it's not here. The 433 megahertz transmitter and receiver. And basically, on both the transmitter and receiver, you're hooking up power grounded signal. And I got that from Amazon, from the same guy on that YouTube channel. Is that the Brew, BRUH? Yeah, I think that's his channel. So if you look at his channel, he'll have the link there. I'll see if I can get it to Door and add it to the notes. So this guy had another video on 433 megahertz. Now, a lot of devices are 433 megahertz. And what you can do with that, and all right, let me finish 433 megahertz. I bought a box. Where's that box? It's called Zap, and it's from a company called, I got this on Amazon. It's ETEK City, and it has 5 433 megahertz outlets and 2 controllers. And I think the controllers are seconds because let me find one of the controllers here. There's a limited number of buttons on the controllers, and the controller, I think a couple of them, while they're on 433 megahertz, they issue the same code to the device. And you program the devices for the code. But I realized it didn't matter that I had, let's just say there's six different on-off buttons on the remote, and all 6 are the same code. So I can only turn, every button does the same thing. So I can't differentiate any of these 6 outlets I got. Well, there's code in Haspian for this. You drop it in the YAML file. So it's just a config. You name what the outlet is going to be, and then you type the code in for the on and the off. And then you can hold the button to program the outlet and then click on the web page for the on for it and click on the page for the off for it, and it programs it.
Right. It it is training by example.
Correct. So I did this and it worked. I was very happy about that. And I'm like, wait a second, I don't even need the remote anymore. Now the remote is cool. Maybe you have it on your nightstand to turn on and off the light in your bedroom.
Right.
So what I did is I put one of these on my HP LaserJet 5, and I showed the family how to work it, so they don't have to yell, Dad, can you turn on the printer? So they can go to the Haspian.hcsc and click the LaserJet 5 button and turn it on, and turn it off when they're done. I programmed 2 identically to the same code, and they turn on the Christmas lights on the Christmas tree and on the lights on the front of the house at the same time. And in fact, I was out of the HCSC until after dark, and while I was driving with a buddy, I'm in the passenger seat, I VPN'd into the home network as it was getting dark, and I pulled up the Haspian.hcsc and turned the Christmas lights on before anybody got home. I also have one of the remotes in my bedroom because I'm in an area, I might as well be 20 miles offshore. There are no lights. There is 0 light pollution. So if I turn off the light in my office, go to walk to my bedroom, I'm going to bump into something. I don't have Jonathan Nadow's mad skills, so I'm in trouble. And so I can turn the light on in my bedroom before leaving my office and get there without not seeing anything, which is kind of nice. So the other thing I wanted to interface with, because I have, we're in Florida, so there's ceiling fans, and the ceiling fans have lights in multiple speeds, and they run on 433 megahertz also. I have not been able to control them yet. But the so that's 433 megahertz world. I'm so excited about that. Oh, and that eTech City whatever was like $30. So basically it's $6 an outlet that you can remotely control from a web-based interface that you could also program. So you could program it, maybe you wanted to go on and off so it looks like somebody's there. You could there's a trigger that's sunset, dusk, this, that. You could do, dusk plus 30 minutes. You could do a bunch of different things, and it knows your geographical location. So it knows what time sunrise and sunset is.
So here's the question. How does the outlet communicate? Does it have built-in Wi-Fi?
The outlet runs on 433 megahertz.
So
which is, an RF radio frequency.
Right.
So the other device wirelessly connects to it, and that's the hub. That's the communicator.
Oh, no. I've divorced myself. So basically, you can take the remotes and throw them out. What I did for $10, I got a transmitter and a receiver that connect to the Raspberry Pi, but just power and ground and signal on both the transmitter and the receiver. And then there's some code that you just drop into the YAML file, the config file for Home Automation Assistant. And the Raspberry Pi is sending the RF signals out.
So it's the range.
Yeah.
All right. So my house is 3,400 square feet, and I haven't had a problem yet.
Single level?
Single floor. Oh, and stupid steel studs all over. So my Wi-Fi is... I probably have more issues with my Wi-Fi than I do with this system so far.
So you remember the days of the 900 meg phones?
Right.
Obviously, that's a little bit higher frequency. So I'm sure, you're getting some interference, but it's not. Well, it's not a deal breaker. You can still send that command.
So the lower the way RF works is the lower the frequency, the more it penetrates. The higher the frequencies, the more it bounces.
Well, the higher the frequency, also, I don't want to say the stronger it is, but the more information you can have in a bit rate, for instance.
But if I'm
sending, don't need high bit rates,
a 8-digit string, who the hell cares?
Right. It isn't like you're trying to push high def video.
Exactly. That's right.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
The other cool thing is Home Automation Assistant, or Haspian, as I just downloaded and installed. Oh, so, all right, originally I had it running on the Pi Zero. Well, the Pi Zero, I didn't solder the pins on it, and I had a Pi 3 laying around. And this is the greatest thing about Pi devices, Raspberry Pi devices, is I pulled the micro SD card out of the Raspberry Pi Zero, plugged it into the Raspberry Pi 3 that had all the header pins on it, because I didn't break out the soldering iron yet, and just plugged all the 433 megahertz receiver and transmitter in. And boom, call it a day. So that was way cool. I'm going to solder some pins in my Pi Zero and switch it back. And so the other thing that it does is it looks through your network. Let's see if I click into it right now. And it found the Google Chromecast on my TV. It found the Roku.
Nice.
It found my Plex server, so it shows what's going on them. So you can also, if it knows you're watching TV in the living room, say you configure it that the living room contains the Roku and the Chromecast, it could do theater lighting for you. It could dim the main lights. So you can have all of these profiles set up, which is kind of cool. So I've been having stink load of fun. Oh, and I have the Eyezon, EYEZON, interface for my home alarm, and I can turn my alarm on and off from this. What I want to get to is where I can do voice control. I can say alarm on, alarm off, bedroom light on, bedroom light off, turn the Christmas lights on, that kind of thing. So that's my, more future goal on it. But the short of it is, for like $40, I'm doing 433 megahertz outlet stuff. That's super cool. Whereas these things are typically more expensive. If you're in Wemo or Hue or one of these product lines, it's so stink more expensive. And that's my excitement, and I'm just, again, excited about how the Raspberry Pi works. So if it works on any Pi, it works on every Pi. So I can go from a Pi 0 to a Pi 3 and back to a Pi 0 after I solder the pins in.
Right. Yeah, and I'll say the best thing about the Raspberry Pi is the support, the functionality, and like Rich said, the compatibility from device to device to device. Same SD card, same configuration, booted up, no real issues to speak of. In the same manner, home dash a home dash a home dash a assistant.io is the software version of home automation of the Raspberry Pi. What I mean by that is I've never heard anybody say anything truly bad about this software platform ever. And I don't know of anything that supports more stuff in the home automation arena. I mean, this thing supports Cisco devices, Google devices, Apple devices, Broadlink devices, Wemo devices, um, D-Link, um, DigitalOcean, Discord, Domino's, Dyson, eBox, Eddie Max, I mean,
Roomba.
on and on and on and on. Fast.com, failed a ban sensor, FedEx keeps, I mean, it just keeps going on and on and on. Um, if you do want to play around with home automation and you don't try this software first, I really have no problem saying you're doing yourself a disservice and you're causing yourself more work. Yeah, this is kind of crazy. I keep telling myself I want to try one of these. I just don't know. I hate to say it. I don't know what I would use it for. I
All
don't
right.
need any
So
lights on or off.
I kind of bit the bullet. I was in the same boat with you. Like, spending $40 to turn an outlet on and off, even though it's 5 outlets, what would I do with it? You find something for it.
Yeah. I did the same thing to my Christmas lights and my Christmas tree. I actually spent $60 for 2 outlets. So
Wow.
yeah. And that wasn't a rush. I was like, you know what? I'm tired of waiting. I don't have any time. I need to get this done. I'm tired of going outside and unplugging lights and plugging it back in again. Or I can get the $10 remote control, but I'm constantly, where's the remote? My son's got the remote. Oh, where are the batteries? So I bit the bullet and purchased the outlets. But I love this because I could have easily done something like this and would have spent a little bit more time, but spent a lot less money.
Well, Dora, in case I just added the link, so it's going to populate in the mini link spreadsheet shortly for the 433 megahertz video. And within the description of the video are the links for Amazon to buy all the items for the the outlets and the transmitter and receiver. So there's also an application where you can sniff the remote frequency. So if you did start using the remote, you can then sniff the frequencies and then just drop them in the box. And there's a video that I'm sure Dora will be including that will have all of the information. And this guy's site is really good. He's got a lot of good info there.
Nice. A really good find.
Gotcha. Very, very cool. And yeah, one of the things we didn't state during that whole thing is one of, to me, the most important things to state. If you don't have root on a computing device in your house, anybody else in the world will be able to get it. It's just a question of how long will it take them and how hard can it be. a lot of the journalistic type people, personalities, fellas, folks insist now everything IoT related needs to be managed by the vendor, and we need to get some kind of guaranteed time frame of updates. Um, to me, that's like saying I'm the new president of the United States, and I'm going to go make peace in the Middle East. You know,
Or
good luck with that. It's been a couple thousand years, and no one's been able to do it. I don't expect the next president or the previous president or this president to be able to do such a thing. It's a monumental task, and for a company to devote time, resources, personnel, research, investigation, hardware, upgrades, workflow, error testing, QA, deployment, monitoring everything without charging a handsome monthly fee, and you expect to get monthly security updates. You're just absolutely insane. If you're not the administrator of the system, expect it to have a shortened lifespan and expect it to be hackable beyond your expectations.
So, Dor, you said a couple of very intelligent things or well thought out things. And one of them was in the past, you mentioned, I forgot what we're looking at, but you're like, how are they going to make money at this? Because if they're not going to make money at it, it's not going to be around long.
Right.
And that's a very good point. Today, and I got a couple of root rants. And I, Dor, if you're paying homage to my root rant, thank you. If you're coming up with that on your own, thank you for mentioning it. I've got a 2013 Genesis Coupe Ultimate. Well, what do you think Ultimate means? It means it's the best one you could buy, right? Well, guess what? They came out. I'm sorry, 2015. I had a 2013. I got a 2015 now. I got the 2015 Ultimate. They came out with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay for everything but the Ultimate. It was after, N months, maybe it was a year later, I don't know. But if I got any of the lesser versions of the car, I can have Android Auto or Apple I can't even say it. Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. Likewise, my Vizio TV, if I had the newer version, it would directly interface with the Google Home, as in built in the last 6 months. So, like Dor said, there's no money in it for the manufacturer. After the dealer got the money from me for my car, why would they upgrade anything ever again? There's no incentive. I think Tesla's doing it, but no other auto manufacturer is doing it. Certainly, Vizio isn't going to be doing software updates on my TV to make it compatible with my Google Home because they're working.
Right. Well, I think here's a real quick gimmick. The reason why Tesla is giving it to you is the same reason why when you buy a BMW, a brand new BMW, you don't pay for like the first round of
maintenance,
brakes and stuff because you already did. It's built into the price of the car.
Right.
Same thing with like Tesla. All of their updates you paid for ahead of time. The only difference is that they made the agreement to say we need to make this a priority, and the only way to make it a priority is to already get the funds for it, and to get the funds for it, we got to charge for it upfront. And because the name Tesla and Elon Musk is associated with it, he could charge, I don't want to say an exorbitant price, but he could charge enough to make that transaction worthwhile for both parties.
Yep. Yeah, good point on that. So I'm talking about this, home automation assistant that I'm running. And so while I've been doing, software for a major portion of my career and data center stuff for the latter portion of my career, which is all virtual stuff. So I guess it's all software anyhow. He does chip design for major chip corporations, but he doesn't do software, which I find kind of interesting because I thought one would go with the other, but apparently it doesn't. And so we actually, he's got a project that's very interesting that he's working, a personal project. So we drove from Palm Beach to Naples and back. And while we're in the car, I'm telling him about this. And he's like, oh, hackable, blah, blah, blah. And I don't understand this stuff, how it works. And I'm like, well, is it hackable? I'm like, that's the comparison of, Windows versus Mac OS. Is the Mac any more secure than a Windows machine? I would say no. Are there more Windows machines out there than Mac machines? Yes. And so if you want to hack a machine, you're going to develop your hack on a Windows machine at least first, and then maybe go over to, and that's the whole thing. So if I have completely rolled my own, home automation assistant, and it's not an Alexa, it's not a this, it's not a that, it's not a Philips Hue. Also, here's the other cool thing is my home assistant doesn't phone home. It doesn't have to go off my network. Now I can hook IFTTT to it and have it go off network for stuff, but it doesn't have to.
Right.
So I can just block it from internet connectivity if I wanted.
Right. Well, yeah, the biggest difference is that is a opt-in
Mhm.
the system where you have to go above and beyond and say, I want integration with Google assistant. So you could literally have a button where you press it and then the mic opens up and you just standing in the middle of the room, give it type of commands and have it perform that as well. But you opt into it. With those other things, I mean, it's the old like FBI joke, you know, 20, 30 years ago, it was incredibly difficult to get spying devices of those types inside people's houses. Now they stand in line to bring them into their house. And and I'm just saying that they're microphones. And I'm just saying that they're hackable. And I'm just saying that they're not controlled by the people that buy them. I'm not saying the mics are turned on. I'm not saying the mics are listening to you. But if tomorrow they are, you have no idea.
Correct.
Yeah. So, and yes, my phone does the same kind of thing, but I can put my phone in my pocket and make it harder to hear. And I can physically turn my phone off quite easily if I want to. I can turn on airplane mode, which I at least believe actually turns off the antennas. With the Google Assistant, the Alexa devices, you have to like physically turn them off. And to be quite honest, I don't know anybody who owns any of those things who ever turns any of them off.
Correct.
They
Yeah.
might have a like mute mic button that they press, but most people forget to push it after a while, then just leave it on because it's more
Mhm.
convenient.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely drinking the Kool-Aid on the home assistant stuff. I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. But yeah, what are you saying that you don't want any other people to hear or take in the wrong way? And that's a big question.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound like I'm against them. I'm not against them. I don't have any of them. I don't have any of them honestly because I just don't see a desire in my house for such a device. We don't. None of us like the same music, for instance. So if I turn on the Beatles, everyone else will complain. If my wife turns on whatever garbage she listens to, everyone else will complain. If my oldest son turns on what he wants to turn on, so the music isn't the answer. Um, Answer questions. Well, my son has a phone, my wife has a phone, I have a phone. If we want questions answered, it isn't that difficult to just lean over because our phone's always right next to us, kind of thing, and just use that. Um,
Right.
I think it's only a matter of time, though, before there is in my house, and I would like to control it versus not. So, I mean, I am going to look at these again, and I am going to try to do a test install because they have made it unbelievably easy now to install this and get it set up and running.
You're talking
Um,
about the Haspian?
yeah,
Mhm.
just, I mean, you can't get more simpler than that. Looking at the instructions, you just download Etcher, download the image, Diet Pie like, boot it up, you're there.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's ridiculous easy. In fact, it's easier than DiaPi.
Right.
So yeah, that was super simple. Even installing Haspian, on a device, Pi device, or I think it runs on Python. I'd have to check. But even doing the install from bare metal is not that hard. Or when I say bare metal, I mean with a device with an OS, and it could run on anything.
Gotcha.
So are we ready for predictions?
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Anybody want to go first?
I predict Rich is going to make a prediction.
I like that prediction. I concur.
Okay, so we have two predictions. My prediction for 2018 that very likely will come true is that
Don't hold your breath.
Door knows what it is already. Is that Door-to-Door Geek will, in 2018, send out the Rock Chip 64 that he promised to Brian and myself. When did you get that? Was it July?
No. I love that prediction. Oh man, that's a good one.
Nah, the only predictions I'll make are smaller, more powerful, hopefully cheaper, because those are the obvious things. I don't see anything making a huge jump. I don't see anything making a huge impact. I don't see anything making a huge difference. I don't see some future technology coming into play that will either shrink the cost down greatly or expand its capabilities out greatly of any of these single board computers. I do expect to see people with experience get together with other people of experience and make better designed boards. And I honestly see the Raspberry Pi Foundation falling further and further and further and further behind the edge. Raspberry Pi 1, they were at the edge. They were at the front edge. Raspberry Pi 2, they were right there close to the edge. Raspberry Pi 3, I mean, when they came out, they were already devices with gig NIC. They were already devices with better ports, better IO, better power, built on, this, built on that. And I still expect a Raspberry Pi 3.14 to come out in March because it should. But I expect it to be very underwhelming, yet still better than the Raspberry Pi 3. And I expect companies like Friendly Arm, like o-droid, like Orange Pi, like Banana, like Upboard, like all these other companies to just get more and more and more traction. Community-wise, though, Raspberry Pi is going to be near impossible to take down.
Right. That's a juggernaut.
The only thing I see actually making a true impact, we mentioned it last week, or I mentioned it last week. Red Hat releasing a formal version of their server operating system to be installed on ARM servers is going to change the economics of ARM computing and shoot the prices down even further with every install they get, with every data center they go into. ARM prices are going to come down more and more and more and more. And with the advent of the Windows supported ARM-based laptops that came out in the last month, the only question would be, how hackable are they? What kind of OSs can we put on them? And how soon are we going to have access to them in other arenas like Linux? I don't expect Mac to come out with any ARM devices because if you take a look at their last two generations of laptops, extremely underwhelming. You take a look at their last generation of desktop, like extremely underwhelming. I really hope to see some more mainstream ARM-based laptops, or even a desktop where I can install Linux. I would love that to happen. Surely I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, I have to second. I'm not too hopeful on Raspberry Pi. I believe what you're saying is going to be true, even though I hope it's not. That Raspberry Pi is not going to have. Let me say this. I'll throw this out there, leveraging off your prediction a little bit. That there will be no gig Ethernet interface or USB 3 on a future Raspberry Pi device this year.
Really?
I hope to be wrong, but I'm going to throw it out there.
I'm thinking, what other direction can they go in? I mean, that's like the Holy Grail, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The only kind of thing I can see them doing that would really make an impact is literally to sell like a clustered board, where you buy a larger board and it has on it 4 physical processors
Well, you kind of mentioned
with
that
hyperthreading.
last week. That's the Scalable Clusters Raspberry Pi.
Right. And the main reason is I can see them serving some kind of use and function. Broadcom, let's not beat around the bush. There almost is no such thing as a Raspberry Pi Foundation. Just like Fedora isn't really Fedora. They take their lockstep orders from Red Hat on what to focus on, what to engage with, what to prioritize, what to shoot towards. Broadcom is a big company with big money. And I think they're one of the companies that are going to see clustering ARM computing solutions being something that's desirable. People don't, admins out there, people building data centers don't want to get into the nitty-gritty and configure everything from scratch. If they can order pre-designed, pre-built, formal spec'd out system that is approved and supported by multiple vendors, I can see that being a desirable market for them to get into.
Well, I'm starting to think we may not see an update until 2019.
Wow.
Whoa. On Raspberry Pi devices?
Yeah.
Well, the Zero, I could see them pushing towards what right now we use the Raspberry Pi 3 towards, and I could see their next, whenever that is, full board being for a different purpose, like I'm saying, more of a server type
So
purpose.
your prediction, let me clarify you on that the Pi Zero W may have quad core more RAM in the future.
I could see them doing that. It needs it.
I agree.
Yeah. And I see a bunch of manufacturers like o-droid just being more and more successful as time goes on, getting more polish under their belt, more experience, more knowledge, knowing what to do, when to do, how to do, and just continuously making a better and better product. Where by the end of next year, I expect the only people to be using Raspberry Pis are the beginning people and the people who want to mass market something. Could be wrong. And I'll say it again. I would love to be able to take Pi type devices and at least do all my podcasting from it.
I still think you can.
Not really. No. I've tried it more than a couple times, trying to run desktop recording, video conferencing software, streaming software, capturing software, and then the network connections between all of us and the network connection between us and YouTube and everything else. It just becomes overwhelming. Now, technically, I could probably replace it with 4 different ARM computers doing different tasks.
Right. That's what I'm picturing.
Then that becomes much more difficult to manage each one independently, and timing then becomes an issue because you have lag between devices. So now, of course, if I get a $600 ARM board, oh yeah, I can do it. But no. When I can spend $180 on a 6-year-old laptop that I'm using right now as my main rig and it works just fine. I'm not going to spend 3 times that amount on a mini computer just to say I can do it on a mini computer.
Right. I still think nothing beats the Raspberry Pi from an educational standpoint.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and that is the one market that nothing is going to compete with it. Nothing.
And this is like, being a 1970s hot rodder. The Chevy 350, if you wanted to go fast and cheap, get a Chevy 350.
Right. And I really can't even think an area of predictions to even make any other predictions in.
Well, I think you made a couple of good ones. Like o-droid has the o-droid XU4, they have a cluster. And if you go to hard kernel, you can see that. I do predict that there's going to be more Pi type clusters, single board computing ARM clusters out there. You did mention that on the last mini PC show where you ran solo, which I want to give you compliments just so I sound like a complete kiss up because I want that Christmas bonus. You did a really good job.
Excellent.
And hopefully that Christmas bonus is a, what is it, a Rock Chip 64?
And a, I can't remember the other thing. Oh, the, VI board as well. Vim Cadus.
Oh, cool.
That's been sitting in the UPS wrapped box sitting.
Yeah, and I don't know, you did mention the Bitscope cluster last week. That looks real cool. And I think do we have enough time to talk about it on the show? Or we should do this on another show.
Your call. I get paid by the hour.
So if you go to cluster.bitscope.com, you can see what they're talking about. And it's a bunch of, is it the Pi Compute or is it the Pi 3?
I believe it was a Pi. I believe it was Raspberry Pi
3. Yeah, I'm looking at the picture. I scroll down. It's a Pi 3. So this is cluster.bitscope.com. And you mentioned they got a cluster pack, and the original article was Lawrence Livermore is now installing these devices. They simulate nuclear explosions and different types of nuclear detonations. So they're simulating things on a very high scale, very fast, and they're traditionally using Intel cluster computing. That's their quote unquote supercomputer. And actually everybody's supercomputer is typically an Intel based cluster.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is now that you can write your software on a $35 device, or you could have a mini cluster, a stack of 4 Pis or whatever on your desk, or you could have it in your lunchbox, take it home with you, whatever, do it in the car. You can write your software on it and now just deploy it to the cluster, the heavy, expensive cluster, which really isn't that expensive. But it's, I don't know, a couple of rack units high. It looks like a 4U rack unit. And how many cores is it?
Well, it depends on which one you're looking at. The one that they offer is the the one that's pre-configured in the pictures, at least, is 144 active node with 6 of them being spares in a 6U drawer.
Wow.
And then they go up to a 1,000 node cluster in a 42U module set for less than $150 a node. And that's the whole thing. In anything, there's 2 ways to attack something: speed, performance, dexterity, or power, girth, and like bulk force. In a huge amount of this, and I hate using these terms, I'm really sorry. Machine learning, neural network, AI, blah, 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 blah. It's not about girth. It's not about power. It's about speed and number of threads. How far can you break down something into minimalistic operations? How quickly can those operations be performed? How quickly can you take the results of those operations and put them back into a cohesive output? It's not about girth. It's about speed. The perfect example is the human brain. Runs off of electrical signals. And if you take a look at the number of nodes in a human brain, it's enormous. It isn't like we got 2 or 3 nodes and they're really strong, powerful nodes. No, they're all very quick, short, dynamic nodes. And that's what a lot of future computing is going to be done on. Now, when you need to transcode a video, sure, an Intel i7 is what you want. But when you want to figure out very difficult computation things, whether it's weather patterns, water patterns, astro, patterns, comets, planets, whatever, or whether it's electrons in a large gravitational force, whatever. You need these huge amounts of nodes and clusters. And yeah, this to me is the kind of thing where I would love to have a job where my job is to maintain and architect and configure and troubleshoot these kinds of nodes. Because one, I'm pretty sure that's a never ending job
Yeah.
because you're always trying to get more out of it, and you're always trying to make sure everything is running at peak, whether it be temperature manipulation or whatever. And at the same time, you're dealing with what I like, mini computers.
It reminds me of a PlayStation 3. When I first got my PlayStation 3, it presented me with an option to use my cycles on my processor during off hours. So when I wasn't playing a game and the machine was just idle, certain universities, I would give them access, obviously. Certain universities would use my cycles for their projects.
Yeah, it was the
Folding at home, was it?
yeah, the a folding at home project where their test virtually folding proteins, because just even one protein can be folded in a million different ways, and each way it's folded can cause other types of chemical reactions. And so it's almost a never-ending process of folding. And there's no place that can ever have infinite computing power. So they figured out a basically like a PNP type solution to distribute out hashes of computations that needed to be done. People, and let me tell you something, that PS3 was the perfect computing device for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, did the PS3 have a cell processor? Which?
Yep. And it was at the time, right when it came out, it was the #1 most desired computer for trying to figure out computational hashing, aka hack encryption algorithms. There was no computer on the device, bang for the buck, how much you could get from your dollar that could do more hashing stuff than that. And then Bitcoin came out, and well, you kind of know the rest of the story.
So one of the things I was involved in video production many years ago. So before the turn of the century, and I like saying that. One of the company I worked at, I would have loved to have, when you did 3D animation, if you did it on one computer rendered all of the frames. But let's say you had a 1,000 frame animation, and at 5 o'clock in my office, if everybody went home and there are 10 employees, I could put 100 frames on each of the desktops and have it run, and then copy it back and use it as a rendering engine. So that was probably a very low end example of how to do cluster computing, and that's how they did Titanic. And it was actually, they did it on Linux computers, and they just had a whole stink load of them.
Right. Yeah. The example I gave a guy at work, when I unload the groceries from my car, if I do it, it's going to take, 5 trips, and it's going to take me 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If I get my son to come out and help me, it's only going to take me 3 trips, and we're going to have it done in 3.5 minutes. I'm not doing any more work. In fact, I'm doing less work.
You might be doing more work trying to coax him to get out there to help you.
and don't put that there. Don't put that there. Put it over there. Yes, I will agree.
Or the other way I thought of it was, it's like an ant eating an elephant versus a million ants eating an elephant.
Yeah.
I love the analogies. My question is, so how...
I predict there's going to be more analogies in 2018.
No, with the cluster computer, I could see how that would fan very well in a research and development scenario or in a corporation scenario. But how would I be able to use that in my home for my personal use?
Well, to me, and here's what I think, Rich. At home, the benefit you'll see is in cost because you could easily buy 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, some cases 20 ARM processors for the same price as one Intel processor. So you'd save money, number one. Number two, less power, less heat. So again, you'd save more money. The problem becomes when you need to then have software specifically designed, developed, and coded to purposely utilize all the cores, all the threads. And that's just one of the problems gamers are having now. On a lot of the higher end systems, higher end games, when they actually do proper monitoring on their computer, they realize some of the games they love are not properly utilizing all the cores. And these are the kind of games where if they were, I mean, they'd perform better. And nothing in this universe seems to make more money in today's market than games. And for games not to be able to do it right, for home computers to be able to do it right, the economic incentive needs to be uh like all or nothing. Either you as a software development studio or people making tools for them to use, you have to do it now or else you're going to lose all your money because everything's going to move that way. And I don't know if that's going to happen this coming year, but I do want more than ever a ARM based desktop computing solution.
So along the cluster lines, this may have already been a link in the notes. I just added it. So if you go to hardkernel.com, there's a device called the o-droid MC1, and it's called My Cluster 1. So basically, it's 4 o-droid XU4s in a stack. Looks like a lot of aluminum heat sinking going on, and they've got, I don't know if it's an 80 millimeter fan bolted on the side so it blows across all of them.
Oh, wow.
So it's 32 CPU cores, 8 gigs of DRAM. So I guess that's 2 gigs per board.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, it can be a Docker swarm, it can be a build farm, it can be Java parallel programming, a Hadoop and Spark stack. So there's a number of things you can do with it. And I do think, I haven't done this. One of the cool things is, yeah, there is Docker for the ARM. So if you want to do something, it's available.
Yeah, the only problem is and I can't remember the term. There's two main types of Docker infrastructure. There's the architecture less and the architecture strict modes of Docker. It's much easier to do the architecture strict version of Docker containers. So right now, huge percentage of the containers designed, built, and deployed for downloading now are strictly designed to run on x86 hardware. So you are going to be able to do it, but in some cases, you're literally going to have to design that container yourself and put the software in it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That particular board is on sale for $218 on Amazon, or the boards that you're talking about.
Is this the Pico? I think
it's supposed to be compatible. Wait, consists of 4 stacks. I think it's compatible with the o-droid XU4. I don't see a USB 3.0 port on it.
No,
it only has one USB port and looks like a micro SD card and a power jack and a Cat 5.
I like the design though. Very unique.
A little minimalist, more on the Teutonic side, which I do like. Well, although, all right, one thing I got to beef about, they need to run a power bus, and you can't have 4 wall warts plugged into that. You need some sort of backplane power bus going on, and one decent power brick to power the whole thing.
Right.
And the fan is powered by one of the USB ports, which kind of is a loser. That ought to be powered by your power brick.
Right. Really quick for the newer type person to this. For years, I never knew what a backplane was. Can you explain to people what a backplane is?
I would have to know what a backplane is to explain it. So the backplane If you're talking about something that has, maybe it's a machine where you're sliding in, let's say, cluster type, and it's the back of the rack where the things slot in. So it could be you have multiple CPUs on a board and you're just dropping them in. And the cool thing about something like that is you could change them out. You could maybe there's a denser quantity of CPU cores on a board, or there's a better, newer, faster. And the back plane has the power, the communication for the board. So there's just an edge card connector. You drop it in there, and it connects up.
So it's like everything's connected in parallel.
Well, it doesn't have to be parallel. It could be.
Yeah, the way I describe a backplane is it's basically electronic primarily, but cable resource management centralized. Instead of just having cables thrown about everywhere, a backplane is a central point to where you plug everything into or organize everything through to go through to the end computing devices. And when it comes to power, what you really want is as little cables coming in to that device and then have to that backplane and then have basically plugs coming out of that going to each device that you need it going to. So it's much easier to swap in and out things. You don't have to mess around. You don't have to, clear everything out and organize everything. Hold this one cable in your hand, put a piece of tape around it so you can find it again kind of situation.
So for this o-droid cluster, if I was going to homebrew a backplane for it, the backplane would consist of 4 power cables that maybe I would 3D print that it would hold them in. So the barrel type, or they call them cannon connectors. So the backplane would hold those. So it would slide in, there'd be slot, and it would slide in a mate to that. And then I would take 4 Cat5 Ethernet connectors and break the locking tab off. So then it would just slide in, it would dock to the power, and it would dock to the Ethernet. And if you ever want to replace it, it would just slide out. And maybe there's some like over center cam lock that locks the board into the backplane. But yeah, Dor, thanks for saying, hey, give a good explanation, because people might not be up to speed on that. And you know what? I want to call out to the listener. If we ever talk about something that we talked about on 10 shows ago, or we expect you to know, write us, call us out on it. Say, hey, I have no idea what that is. And what's we got a phone number and an address, right, Dor?
Yeah, 7076 Podnutz is the easy way to send us a voicemail, and it's the Mini PC Show. I'm sorry, Mini PC Show at podnutz.com for emails, or just podnutz.com, click on contact.
Or you could find us on our Google Plus community.
Mm-hmm.
Love the community.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's lots of good information floating around in between shows.
Very cool. Did you guys have anything else, or any other predictions that you wanted to bring up?
No, I think we beat. I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to thank everyone for downloading. Thanks everyone for the feedback and support. If you want to, you can go to patreon.com/minipc show, and you can give us direct support if you want. The last week or two, everyone was absolutely freaking out. One of the problems I find with America today is everyone's offended by something. And for the last week, everyone in my circles were offended by Patreon changing their model on how everything was going to be charged. Unlike most politicians and most systems out there, Patreon actually stopped and listened and said, I think we're making a big mistake. And they canceled all changes to their system that were proposed. They were basically going to spread out the cost, charge donors a little bit more, and charge creators a little bit less, and try to spread it out and make everyone more happy. And it turned out making everybody more mad. I still say They are the best place to go support us for two reasons. One, you can communicate with other supporters if you so well please. Two, you can have direct communications with us anytime you want through their interface, and you will get prioritized treatment. Just saying, that's just what money has an effect on people with. And three, you will have the ability to ask for explicit content, and we will do everything in our power to make sure that happens. That's kind of the point of the whole thing. If you want to be a part of that, again, just go to patreon.com/podnutz. Please don't hesitate. Send us email, send us feedback, send us information, and we will talk to everyone in about a week. I'm literally almost losing my voice. It is hurting. I still don't see the damn link, Rich. It hasn't popped in yet. Other stuff's popped in, but not that.
For the o-droid cluster?
Yeah. What the hell was the address again?
Hardkernel.com/ oh, you know what? Hold on. I know how to do this. I know how to work the internet. There you go.
You're going to use the Facebook?
The Facebook.
What'd you put there, Brian?
Yeah, Brian's got it also.
What's up?
Okay.
Oh, on Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
The Amazonian link.
I'm not going to lie. You know, and this is my big weak point. I don't know, software speaking, benefits or limitations of cluster stuff. On the main rig, which I don't see here unless one of these isn't the cluster and one of these is the main rig.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of software do you need on it? Anything else? Anything different? I have no idea. And then how do you divvy up jobs, processes, task to it? Or is it just defined at a higher level and all I do is just do my do?
Yeah, you're right. There would be a master node.
Unless it's actually a cluster of 3 and one of them is.
Right. Yeah, that'd be lousy.
Well, but I've seen other people do it before, so
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't know. Okay, let me record the beginning part. Give me a second here. Damn. I woke up this morning, my throat hurt.
Oh, should I still be recording?
You don't have to. No, I'm just going to
Okay.
record the beginning part.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording.
That will be a good visual indicator. This week on the Mini PC Show, we talk about home automation assistant, home assistant. This week on the Mini PC Show, we talk about homeassistant.io, aka Hasbian. We talk about 433 megahertz, not 121 gigawatts. And we also talk about predictions for 2018. Oh, my throat. Damn it. Blame the kids. Blame the kids. I blame the kids. Stinking kid germs.
Right?
Hmm?
So 7.
Your connection went poop.
Yep.
67. File. Save as documents. Damn. I would say maybe I should drink some liquor, but it's going to work tomorrow.
Oh boy! All right, so I got Kahlua. Somebody stole the bottle of amaretto from the night of my daughter's bat mitzvah like 3 years ago. Just show what kind of drinker I am. I'm not up to par. But we made hot chocolate, and I put Kahlua in it.
Mm.
I'm like,
Kahlua chocolate
That sounds
flavor?
pretty tasty.
What is it? I don't know.
Hey, look, when you're a wannabe alcoholic like me,
What flavor is Kahlua? I mean,
Coffee.
amaretto is almond, right?
yeah, Kahlua is
Okay.
coffee flavor,
Kahlua coffee. Gotcha.
but it's liquor and it's coffee, and it goes in the hot chocolate.
I know when my mom said she was visiting basically family that you don't know kind of thing. In the morning, one of them said, "Hey, well, would you like an Irish coffee in the morning? I'll help your day start off right." I'm thinking, well, yeah, I want to fit in.